When Lucy decides to leave Vault 33, Reg and Davy were hellbent on preventing her from doing so. Or were they? Because it kinda seems to me that they could give a mole rat's ass. Well, Wastelanders, it looks like we're doing that thing again, where I take a teeny tiny moment in the Fallout TV show and use it as an entry point for a broader conversation. Let's start with a scene recap, and this is all the way at the beginning, or the end, Season 1, Episode 1. Continuing the grand tradition of many a Vault Dweller before her, Lucy was dead set on braving the wasteland to find a missing family member, despite lack of Vault support. So with the help of her brother Norm and her cousin Chet the Gatekeeper, she gets that Vault 33 door open so that she may make her escape. And as she's about to have that iconic Fallout moment crossing that threshold, Reg and Davy run out to stop her, kind of. Reg says, "Lucy, are you mad?" Davy says, "Young lady, you come back here right away." Dramatic music swells. Lucy's exit is becoming imminent. "Lucy," Reg cries. "Lucy, no!" But it cannot be stopped. She walks through. What's done is done. It's over. And Davy just says, "That didn't work." And then from that moment on, as far as we see anyway, Reg and Davy never mention Lucy again. So, what familiar real-life situation is this scene pointing to? If we strip away the Fallout setting, what's actually happening here? Something that's always struck me about this moment is they don't actually do anything to stop her from leaving. And then as the series continues, nobody wonders how she's doing, nobody hopes she's okay. It's easy to forget that first opening sequence, episode 1, Stephanie was Lucy's best friend. Has Stephanie expressed any worry about what happened to Lucy whatsoever? Has anyone in this vault expressed any concern for the well-being of Hank or Lucy? No, because this is not a community of care and connection, it is a community of codependence. I don't want to spoil the show Silo if y'all haven't seen it, because if you're a fan of this show, you should really watch that show. But there's a character who leaves in Silo, and take a moment to compare how they react to that character's departure to how they react to the departure of Lucy, and you'll get my point even more. I also can't help but be reminded of the game Night in the Woods. Without spoiling, I can at least say early on you hear about a character named Casey who went missing. His parents put up missing posters, but his friends just kind of assumed he hopped a train and skipped town. It's a similar situation where everyone's lack of concern for what happened to Casey is kind of a red flag. At this point, we know that Vault-Tech's agenda isn't for the sake of the Vault Dwellers. The Vault Dwellers are there to serve the interests of Vault-Tech, which is managing the future. You may have heard what's kind of become a saying, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. A great example of that is what Betty says to Lucy in that meeting. When Lucy proposes putting together a search party to find her dad, Betty says, "Our first priority has to be to maintain the security of this vault." First priority. In other words, only the people who benefit from securing the vault are prioritized. As soon as you leave the vault, you are out of jurisdiction. And you can see examples of this in day-to-day life all the time, because the reality is, there are plenty of times when people value your participation more than they value you, or your well-being. As soon as Lucy left the vault, they cared about her about as much as House cared about Benny once the courier brought him the platinum chip.
That's because he ceased to be relevant when you recovered the platinum chip.
Or about as much as the Institute cares about a decommissioned synth. Remember, whenever Nick Valentine outlived whatever use they had for him, they literally put him in the trash.
They really just threw you away?
Sure did. I remember waking up one day in a garbage heap. A body in tatters and a head full of memories belonging to a man who'd been dead for 200 years. Suffice to say, it was a confusing couple of weeks.
It's unfortunately not uncommon for communities to value members more than people. Like a politician only seeing a human being as a voter. They might want to keep you, they might want to please you, but not necessarily for your benefit. Once your values and priorities are no longer in line with the collective, then your concerns are no longer theirs. As far as they're concerned, like I talked about in the last video, you have opted out. In that video, we talked about why you can't expect yourself to approach every living being with the same level of care and concern, and the importance of identifying who your people are based on shared values. Your goodness, or your understanding of yourself as a good person, is oftentimes irrelevant to somebody operating from a totally different definition of goodness.
Good is not a meaningful vector in history.
The golden rule is pointless if not everyone is on board. And when people make it clear that your interests are not a priority for them, they should probably be dismissed from your sphere of concern. And if they're straight up hostile toward you, then yeah, they've opted out. And while Lucy obviously wasn't hostile, from Vault 33's perspective, she absolutely opted out by exiting the vault. The vault's statement of its values, the number one priority being the security of the vault, that's an example of boundaries. Don't expect the vault to do a goddamn thing to serve any of its people if it even in the slightest presents the teeniest, tiniest bit of vulnerability to the vault. Even if, as Lucy says, the door's only open for like a minute. So anyone living in the vault who intends to be a beneficiary of this shared value of protecting the vault at all costs is going to uphold it. They don't envision any scenario where they might have to leave the vault or might be taken from the vault. So they are absolutely fine with the blanket assumption that their individual needs are not as important as the security of the vault. What individual needs could they possibly have that would conflict with that? Like I said in the last video, we all have to draw the line somewhere, so what a natural place to draw the line? At the vault exit. So what am I saying here? Am I saying that the vault's doing the right thing here? That they should draw the line where they're drawing it? Not exactly. In fact, I think it's a good example of why people might be hesitant to take in what I said in the last video. Naturally, it's gonna strike a lot of us as pretty heartless, right? I mean, this is Norm and Lucy's father, and they're expected to just forget about him and move on. People don't want to draw a line somewhere and say, I don't have compassion or care or concern for people that are outside of my tribe, outside of my group. And I think it's fair to say that Fallout the franchise framed this kind of thinking as a bad thing with the ending of the first Fallout game. The Vault Dweller goes on this grand adventure to get the water chip for their vault, brings it back, and as many of you I'm sure know by now, the Overseer doesn't let you back in because you've been tainted by the wasteland. The security of the vault is the number one priority, and you are now a threat to that. And if you aren't an asset to the security of the vault, then you're expendable. And I think beyond that, many of us on a personal level are extremely hesitant about dropping people because we know how it feels to be dropped. We tend to feel a lot more inspired by that Star Trek no man left behind sort of mentality. We want to believe that everyone is important and that everyone is valued because we want to believe that we're important, that we're valued. And rightfully so. It is extremely painful to believe that you are loved, that you are valued, that you are included, only to have one choice, one decision, one mistake, one infraction get read as grounds for dismissal, get you kicked out or banished. That's why I think the salient point when we're looking at Vault 33 isn't whether or not it has the right to set boundaries, it's what those boundaries are, how they're defined. And I think it's a really specific problem, and that the Brotherhood of Steel has the same problem. Remember when Dane says, flesh is weak, but steel endures? Or remember Cleric Felix when he says, we are the finders and the preservers. Unless you know what to find and preserve, you are more useful as a corpse. We're seeing that the Brotherhood and the Vault, that both of these collectives teach their members that the collective is more important than the people in it. And this is where I have a wee little problem. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with putting collective well-being over personal gain. We've talked about that a lot. Choosing long-term collective well-being over short-term personal gain is basically what goodness is, along with being willing to constantly reassess and reevaluate what your understanding of goodness is. But that's an older video. For now, the point is, I think that if you as an individual decide that you want to put other people's well-being ahead of your own, good on you. High five, thumbs up, 5-star review. However, it is an entirely different situation if authority is imposing that on you to do so. Now, when societies get big enough, this can get extremely convoluted. Like, is it morally wrong to make people pay taxes? Oh god, okay.
I'm paying them NCR taxes, so now you got to as well.
We could definitely get into the weeds on this, but for the sake of this video, the point I'm trying to make about this scene, we are talking about, do the humans in this collective, in this faction, in this outfit, hold it as a basic, sacred value to care about each other? And in times when we're supposed to put caring for each other aside for some sort of greater good, what greater good is that is somehow greater than us caring about each other? Like if the Brotherhood of Steel comes at you and says, don't care about your children or your mom, care about this pre-war doohickey, that should give you pause. The Star Trek franchise does a pretty good job of exploring these kind of ideas. Like, even if you're not a fan, you've probably heard the Spock quote, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Oh, the amount of time that I could spend analyzing that line. But for the purposes of this video, in The Wrath of Khan, Spock sacrifices himself to save his crew. But that was a choice he made as an individual. He was not required by his commanding officer to do so. Nor was he conditioned by a religious doctrine that if he were witnessed all shiny and chrome, he would secure his place in Valhalla. He's just a good dude. Meanwhile, the franchise is full of examples of Starfleet captains having a no man left behind philosophy. Every single person is important. Picard routinely risks the Enterprise to find stranded crew members. On Deep Space Nine, rescue missions for captured officers, a very common occurrence. And on Voyager, it's basically like a continuous subplot, that they could get home so much faster if Janeway was willing to screw over somebody in the crew, but no, she will not. Because in Star Trek, Starfleet is there for the people. The ship is there to serve its crew, just as much, if not more so, than the crew is there to serve the ship. But in the vaults, the residents are there to serve the vault. And in the Brotherhood, their ranks are there to serve the Brotherhood. And they make it look so evil, but my god, I wish that the real world wasn't so similar. You see this mentality whenever you hear people say that people who are disabled should be euthanized, or that houseless people need to get a job. But society, so-called civilization, should function in a way that it takes care of its people. But without even thinking about it, we decide whether a human life is worth living by how well it supports the system, which is backwards. And this reminds me of an excellent quote from the book Neuroqueer Heresies. I'd like to propose that instead of reading human beings as high-functioning or low-functioning, we apply the terms high-functioning and low-functioning to societies, rating the functioning of a society according to the degree to which it succeeds in supporting and furthering the well-being of all its members. Bam! Being loyal to your quote-unquote vault, whatever that is for you, is a beautiful thing, but I think dignity and self-respect should compel all of us to ask ourselves, is our vault loyal to us? I've always seen vaults as a metaphorical concept. It doesn't have to be a physical place. Your vault is something that's containing you. It's making you, along with other people, feel safe. Doesn't have to actually be safe, just feels that way, and it really matters to other people that you continue to feel that way. So it could be your family, your hometown, your school, your job, your religion, your fandom. Whatever it is, I think it's wise to accept that sometimes the other members, the other vault dwellers, are going to be more loyal to the vault than they are to you. And sometimes that's okay. People being invested in you is a double-edged sword. Sure, they'll support your success, but they'll also blame and shame you if you fuck up. I mean, would you really want everyone on your street to be just as all up in your business as your spouse? I mean, look at the panopticon that the internet is turning the world into. We can't exist without being worldwide broadcast. It's not healthy for the brain, for our relationships. The amount of pressure that is on us to not make any mistakes, to not have any slip-ups, in fear of social rejection, or even sometimes some pretty extreme consequences, and nobody's gonna care if it's a misunderstanding. I don't want to think about it. Trust me, when you put yourself on the internet as often as I do, you think about these things a lot. We just always have to keep in mind what it is that our vault values more than us, and if we're okay with that. Are you okay living in a vault that doesn't give a shit about you if you're broke? Or if you're gay, or if you're disabled? What decisions, choices, or mistakes does your vault look at and see as grounds for dismissal or opting out? Trust me, it's not wise to depend on people who don't value you. And they might act like they do, and they're really just dependent on your participation in what they actually do value. So if you have dignity, if you have self-respect, I wouldn't participate. Community section for the Feral Cools. Yes, this video wasn't as long as I've been doing lately, but frankly the last two were ridiculous. I can't keep that up. We do have a Feral Cools Discord now, so there's a place for conversations to expand beyond the comments and the streams, and we brainstorm video topics, etc. But I don't want a standing open invite at the moment since there are no mods, it's just me, so what I'm doing for now is putting a one-day invite link in the description of my stream. So after my stream, open the VOD that night or the next day, and there's the link. That way if I want to sort of freeze incomers, I'll just take a break from posting links. Next stream is going to be Saturday, June 13th, if you want to talk about this video or future videos or whatever. So, always looking forward to seeing you. Until then, stay cool, ferals.